You're a fertile goddess, you're glowing, it's so beautiful, you go to all these parties. No one's throwing me an infertility party. No one's like asking what's on my IVF registry. My name is Jordan. I'm a health journalist. I'm here to talk about infertility, primarily in young people like myself. This is like the first time that I'm talking about it. I used to get my period every 20 days, which sucked. All of a sudden it started coming later and later, and then it just stopped coming, and I went to the doctor. She said a variation of, you're stressed, you got a lot going on, you work all the time, don't worry about it. I said, I am worried about it, and can you just run some blood tests? A few weeks later, she called me, and it was pretty much a scene like you would expect in a medical drama. She asked me if I was sitting. She told me that I was prematurely menopausal. The last thing she ended the call on was, do you want to have children? Being 24, I was like, yes, but do I want to have children right now? Like, I hadn't thought of it in my mind. I was like, okay, yes, I want to have children. She's like, okay, here's a list of fertility clinics, and you should make an appointment next week. Like, that's how dire this is. I just remember standing there and just shaking, because I was like, how am I going to be a mom at 24 and have kids and pay my student loans, and I live in a 5th floor walk up? That kind of started what I would call the worst 3 years of my life. Doctors being dismissive is nothing new to me. I was actually diagnosed with endometriosis when I was 12. I had been having chronic pelvic pain since I was 10, and my pediatrician told me I was the little girl who cried wolf. My early childhood, my teen years, my early 20s, it's pretty much just been doctors not believing me, brushing symptoms off. I learned really early, fortunately, to advocate for myself. I made appointments with a few different experts. Honestly, it was just one horror show after another. I saw someone who was considered a pioneer in restoring ovarian function, and I was really excited to see him. And during the appointment, he turned to my boyfriend and said, "You're a really good man for being with someone like her." I just remember thinking okay, thank you, next. I felt like what everyone was telling me was to do IVF. There was no financial option for me to do that. All of these people were giving me options that were just so expensive. If we put such a high price on pregnancy, then for people with infertility, there is no chance at parenthood. And then we're saying that only people who are wealthy deserve to become parents. What changed pretty immediately for me was how to navigate a very fertile world. It felt like right after my diagnosis, everyone was pregnant. It became very triggering for me. It's like a knee-jerk reaction. It's like, that might never happen to you. And I'm like, okay, yes, thank you. You don't have to remind me every time I see a pregnant person. In so many people's mind, if I said, I'm upset because I might not be able to have kids, people are like, well, you can just adopt. I'm like, well, that's not the same. My goal is to become a biological parent, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't love any child. People are like, well, there are so many children that need a loving home, and aren't you a little bit selfish not to give them one? Telling someone who is infertile that it is their responsibility to provide that home is unfair. Adoption isn't a cure for infertility. Around the time I turned 27, I went and I this time chose a female doctor. That made quite a big difference. She was kind of optimistic that with the right things and the right timing that maybe something could happen. I did several, I think 3 IUIs. It's the turkey baster method, but in a doctor's office. I wanted it to work, but I also still didn't really want to be a mom at 27. None of those worked, which was disappointing. Each time it was about $800 or $900, not including the medication. It's coming in every few days for blood work, transvaginal ultrasounds, which are internal ultrasounds. You don't even feel like a person after a while. It just kind of feels like you're on this assembly line. Everyone is in your body doing things. It's just terrible. I had been fortunate to be able to save some money to try and afford IVF. Since the odds are not on my side, I have found a doctor who is willing to work with me and not charge me $1 million. What I wanted to happen was I was gonna get pregnant, and then when I was ready to share, I was just gonna be like, whoops, look what happened, I got pregnant. Not, I just spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to get pregnant, and I'm dealing with this terrible diagnosis. I felt like the diagnosis and the whole entire road that I had been on put all of this sadness into like what is usually a joyous, life milestone for people. I failed the first IVF cycle, and then I failed my second IVF cycle. And after that point, I just was so hormonal and bloated. And I'm the person who usually people come to with their problems. I could just feel it like building up inside of me. So I just tweeted the whole thing out. That's literally how I did it. And I immediately felt better. For months, my whole life felt like lies, and I had to remember who I told what lie. And I just was so tired of juggling it. I think telling people about my infertility, it feels more manageable now because I'm not shouldering this giant weight. There are days where I think, why me? And this really sucks. But I think the more that you connect with the infertility community and you hear all of the stories about how many people have been trying for 15 years and have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, the strength of that community, they're all just so passionate about having children and having their own children and not being denied what other people have so easily. That's really what it comes down to, is feeling like this is your right, wanting to, pursue medical intervention to achieve it like we would for any other disease, because that's what infertility is. Essentially, it's a disease.